Can we move the mic just a little closer to you? Or you a little closer to the mic?
Yeah, then I can sit here with my arm on the, how's this?
That's perfect. You look like a real pundit or something leaning into your...
I am.
Train a video camera on you and you tell me what's happening in the world. Okay, I think we're good. Welcome back to We Are the Great Turning, a podcast with Joanna Macy and me, Jess Sarante, where Joanna tells us what's happening in the world. Or, more accurately, she shares what she's learned in her 95 years of life about how we can make sense of our world. In our last episode, we talked about what we call the 3 stories of our time: business as usual, the great unraveling, and the great turning, a paradigm shift toward a more just and life-sustaining society.
Now, you have allowed yourself something amazing. You have allowed yourself to even take in the concept, a great turning. That means that this whole planet and all the people in it will hear a tune somehow that would allow them to live in concord, to live in tolerance of each other. Isn't that amazing? There must be something in your imagination that allows you to see promise and allows you to see beauty.
The Work That Reconnects uses the 3 stories to help us frame what's happening in the world and choose what we want to give our lives to. And there's a second tool that we're going to talk about in this episode, which is like an inner map we use to live our lives. We call it the spiral. The spiral is a structure that organizes almost all of Joanna's work. It's a pattern with 4 stages that we follow again and again. First, we start with gratitude. Second, we honor our pain for the world. Third, we see the world with new eyes. And finally, we go forth into action. When it comes to emotions, the word spiral can get a bad rap in our culture. It evokes spiraling out of control and into chaos, or spiraling down the drain. But in the Work That Reconnects, the spiral is more like the predictable, but also ever-changing cycles of nature. The sun comes up at dawn, hits its peak in the afternoon, sets in the evening, and after dark, it rises again for a new day. We can trust this cycle to repeat itself day after day, bringing us new perspectives as change unfolds. And so it is with the spiral. I'll talk about the spiral in more detail, how it works and what the different stages mean at the end of this episode, but it's best understood through experience. So we're going to jump right in. I want to begin with something startling that Joanna said to me one morning as we were beginning to record.
What has motivated me, what has inspired me to find words for it, is a deep commitment to a belief that we can make a difference. And now, I no longer think we can.
So this was a state of defeat I'd never heard from Joanna before. I thought, is she giving up?
It's like, do I want to do that anymore if I don't feel we can change anything?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have no better fate than the captain whose ship is sinking. Whether we decide I'll go down with the ship, but there's no lifeboats. The water's disappearing, the trees are dying. The crops are either shriveling or washed away. Hunger's coming.
My heart sank in this moment. In our 10 years of friendship, Joanna and I have talked a lot about the great unraveling, but I've never heard her express such a complete sense of doom. Not in this way. It was scary and confusing to hear her talk like this, but in a weird way, it was also kind of relieving, because I also have moments where my despair and my doubt totally overtake my sense of possibility. I told Joanna that there was a part of me that just wanted to run out of that room from hearing her say that she worries that our fate is no better than the captain of a sinking ship. Just as we're talking about this, I'm noticing a couple of things in my body. One is how real what you're saying to me feels. And then another is a desire to push it away.
Because we're preoccupied by pushing it away. Even beginning to say the things that are happening and are scaring us could help us see that among the things scaring us is fear of speaking it.
Mm-hmm.
We're afraid of it, but we're afraid of saying what we're afraid of.
Yeah.
And so that's like putting our heart and our trust in life in a safe and throwing away the key.
This was powerful feedback. Joanna's right. I have dark thoughts about the future all the time. And she's reminding me that it's actually necessary to speak them out loud. It scares me to do that. I've been called dramatic or a bummer or out of touch for naming my fears. And so over the years, I just stopped doing it as much, even though my whole life is about the climate crisis. Listening back to this conversation, something I can see now that I didn't totally understand in that moment is what a gift it was that she had just named her fear. Joanna was refusing to lock up her heart by keeping her worries in, and she was trusting me to be able to handle hearing that from her. Right then, though, it was really hard for me to stay present, and so I asked for us to take a moment. Here we are again at the table. I'm wondering if we can actually pause for a second and connect to the earth and to connect into our gratitude, because I have questions for you about what you just said, but I want to ask about it from a place of feeling a little more resourced than I feel right now.
Good. Yeah. That's right. We don't begin like that, as you remind me. We can begin at any moment to just feel that we're breathing and be glad we can breathe, that we have lungs, that we have air, that there's oxygen. And we're sitting here together to let the truth of what we know and feel be spoken. And that I've often found the words coming as in doing the work that reconnects, that we're creating oxygen by saying our truth. So that is very good to begin again with gratitude, to come from gratitude that we have this time.
Gratitude. This is where we start because it roots us right into what really matters, into the present moment and the gift of our lives. And as you're hearing, it's also remarkably simple.
We have mouths to speak and hearts to feel and brains to think. Yeah, we do. Yeah. And we have the freedom right now to just do this while so many of our brothers and sisters are separated, jailed, or in prison for just sitting together to speak the truth of what we see and feel.
Amazing. How right now what I'm struck by is the total peace of just sitting here in your dining room across the table from you in the total silence that we get to, you know, like our immediate surroundings are so peaceful. And here I am sitting with one of my favorite conversation partners in the whole world, water pouring down my face because I can't talk about any of this stuff with you without crying, gratitude or pain. And what a gift it is to be here.
Yes, and my eyes are wet as well. And through those tears, I looked at your hands, and your hands were praying or in prayer. In the Buddha Dharma, I do the Namaste. It's a prayer to be present for what you want most, whether you call it God or the opportunity to speak truth and the courage.
Mm.
And so we give thanks for that. Thanks for our appetite for truth.
So this is the reason we begin the spiral with gratitude. It changes everything when we come into a conversation about our greatest pains and fears with the ability to also be present to what we love. Gratitude gives us the strength to be able to face the hard realities of our world with courage and compassion. And starting with gratitude is not about negating any of our harder feelings. In fact, we can feel grateful for those feelings themselves. Gratitude buoys us so that we can remember that just as surely as our hearts break with pain, they can also burst with joy that we are alive now, together. This pause that Joanna and I took in this conversation pulled us both out of the hopelessness that she had been expressing and gave us access to something that wasn't present at the beginning of our conversation, a sense of possibility.
I have to bow to the fact that there's something beautiful that still can happen, something beautiful and worthy of us, or that we can be as intelligent, choice-making bipeds on this planet with a beautiful civilization and a death-dealing one as well. And we have a choice. We can use this exquisite time. It becomes exquisite. We still make choices to measure up to the best of us. Our passion for truth, our longing for peace. Both of those are available still. The truth and the peace. And the solidarity.
One of the things about Joanna that never ceases to inspire me is how in touch she is with her love for our world. It all stems from that, really.
I don't know what predisposes a person to be astonished.
Yeah.
And there are times I lose that and everything seems flat and predictable and stale.
Huh.
So I don't know, but I know that I'm actually in love with my world.
Yeah.
Even though I'm filled with exasperation and hate and fed upness and scolding. But at the same time, I'm in love with it.
Yeah. Joanna teaches me that to love our world is to be willing to let all of it in. We learn to see the beauty that surrounds us, even amid the uglier or duller parts. It's the same thing that we do in our closest relationships, where our bumps and triggers are familiar territory. Like when we lose patience with a parent and our teen self seems to reemerge. Or when the honeymoon phase wanes and life with our partner starts to feel mundane. Navigating the bumps and the boredom, the anger and the frustration, along with all the reasons that these relationships bring us so much joy, this is the stuff of intimacy. Love asks us to stick with the mucky parts, and when we do, we usually also get to experience extraordinary beauty. We don't get one without the other. In a similar vein, part of participating in the Great Turning is training ourselves to pay attention to the world in new ways. We learn to see what is wonderful, even amid what's terrible, because not only does it make our lives more beautiful, but it also keeps us fueled and motivated for the hard work every day. Witnessing Joanna's very loving relationship to our planet has changed the way that I pay attention to the world. Here, she addresses the earth directly.
You are my beautiful home, my only home. It's the finest home anyone would ever have met, with its mountains and rivers and lakes. And you've made me, not one piece of me is made from anything else but your body. And you are a living body. And I will give my life to you. You've gave me life, and I give it back. I let you live in me. And you want a body? Here it is. You want some way to work? Use my hands. Use my mouth. Use my eyes, or use my patience.
Our gratitude connects us to our love, which connects us to our care, which connects us to our outrage and our drive to protect what we love and care about. And it all happens naturally, as long as we don't stop the flow of feeling, as long as we let ourselves feel what's inside us.
Why does it bother you that they're spraying DDT in the orchards where your fruits go? Why does that bother you? It bothers you because the orchards grow beautiful fruit. This is our world. It creates beauty and food and nourishment. And you have somehow some of the same feelings you have about your newborn child or your baby brother. We're doing what? You're spraying what on your orchard? Give me a break. Do you realize what that is? How can you? Look what we're given. Oh, for crying out loud, don't do it.
Earlier, I told you that gratitude is the first of 4 stages in the spiral. Joanna first laid these out in the 90s. These 4 stages are gratitude, honoring our pain for the world, seeing with new eyes, and going forth.
There's a thrust, there's a sequence, or even a movement through this reflected in the spiral of the work. And builds on it, because this is asking something huge of people.
Yeah. A Work That Reconnects workshop always follows the spiral. Maybe in 4 hours, a weekend, or maybe over an entire week. But we don't need to be in a workshop to follow the spiral. I use it as a guide in my day-to-day life all the time. The spiral has taught me how to trust in the natural unfolding of things, in the impermanence and interconnection of all my emotions and experiences. Here's how a journey through the spiral works. We begin by acknowledging our gratitude. With the strength that we gained there, we are able to really be with, to honor the reality of our pain for the world. Then, as we speak the truth about what pains us and share that with others, that pain transforms. It eventually shifts, and we're left with a sense of clarity. We come into awareness of what was always there, our interconnection with our world and our place in it, this moment in time. In recent years, some folks have begun to call this phase seeing with new and ancient eyes, because our fresh perspective can connect us to ancestral wisdom from many traditions. Then, with that fresh, clear-eyed view on the world, we are naturally compelled to act, to do something meaningful in service of life. Gratitude, honoring our pain, seeing with new and ancient eyes, and going forth. We call it a spiral instead of a circle because every time we arrive back at the beginning, we've been changed by our journey. We might travel the spiral dozens or hundreds of times, and every time there's something new for us to learn. As we follow the spiral, we deepen into our connection with the world. Hence, the work that reconnects. There's so much more to say about the spiral and its stages, but the real power of the spiral lives in experiencing it. In future episodes, we'll continue to follow the spiral. So by listening to the whole series and doing the bonus exercises, you will get to experience the power and beauty of the work that reconnects. You can also take the spiral deeper into your life by starting a podcast club and checking out our toolkit at wearethe.greatturning.com.
See, it's astonishing that we're here at all. It's wild that anything like this could be. It's astonishing. What? You have a life on a planet and such a beautiful one.
Yeah.
How did you manage that? And any way that you could think of how you managed to have a life on this planet, it's preposterous.
So our journey around the spiral has begun. Next time on We Are the Great Turning, with the strength we've gained from our gratitude, we enter into the second stage of the spiral, honoring our pain for the world. You'll get to hear Joanna express some powerful, righteous outrage about what's being done to our planet, and learn how to make space for your own pain.
There's no future if we go numb. Aside from our wanting people to be more alive, and this you'll feel better, is that we'll be less dangerous to our world. We'll start limiting the death march on the world.
Thanks for listening to We Are the Great Turning. This show is free for everyone, made possible by our generous donors. If you'd like to, you can make a donation at wearethegreatturning.com. There, you can also find our toolkit with discussion prompts, guided exercises, and more to bring the insights from this podcast deeper into your life. We build the Great Turning by talking and acting together. So please consider sharing these episodes with someone you love or forming a podcast club and going through the exercises in the toolkit together. This episode, we have a bonus for you. It's a guided exercise designed to help you practice the work that reconnects with the people in your life. You can find the link to that bonus episode in your podcast app. We'd love your feedback, so send us a note or a voice message at greatturning@soundstrue.com. You can find me on Instagram at Jess_Serrante, SERRANTE, and at JessSerrante.com. This show is brought to you by the Sounds True Foundation. Thank you to our team at Sounds True, especially Tammy Simon and Fernie Tiflis. Our show's producer is Anya Kamenetz. Our audio producer and engineer is Luce Fleming. Our editorial consultant is Anna Sale. Thank you to Rising Appalachia for the use of their songs Resilient, Catalyst, and Novels of Acquaintance. Thank you to all of our generous donors who made this podcast possible. Christopher Hormel, the Best Family Foundation, the Calliopeia Foundation, Barbara Ford, Polly Howells, Linnea Lombard, Kathleen Sullivan, Blaise Dupuis, Miju Han, Gideon Wald, and everyone who contributed to our GoFundMe. Special thanks to Ann Simons-Bucher, Peggy Macy, Stephanie Kaza, Jeremy Blanchard, Lucy Boucher, Jesse Marshall, and Nicole Wires. I want to offer my deepest gratitude to Joanna Macy for her profound friendship and extraordinary generosity and wisdom. It has been the honor of my life to make this podcast with you.
It strikes me afresh where so many people are thinking and responding in terms of what's happening to the body of the earth. I'm grateful for that. And I don't need to be afraid. None of us needs to be afraid now in speaking our hearts, because we know that we belong to each other in a way that perhaps we hadn't felt before in our lives.